It's time to check in with our media partners from the Voice of OC for an update on what's happening this week in Orange County government and politics.
Here to talk about the issues in the news right now, we welcome the editor-in-chief for Voice of OC, Norberto Santana.
Norberto, a coalition of cities invited the public to talk about an OCTA and Caltrans plan to install toll lanes along the 405 freeway. What's the latest?
Officials with the Orange County Transportation Agency are expected to vote on a proposal that would create 2 toll lanes in each direction on the I-405 between Seal Beach and Costa Mesa and add 1 general purpose lane. Now, OCTA officials and elected members who serve on the board keep pointing to Caltrans as the bad guy here, arguing that if they don't install those toll lanes, the state agency will, and they'll keep all the revenue. Now, many observers see the battle in Orange County as key for Caltrans, which is looking at using more toll lanes throughout the state as traffic counts just keep rising. Now, yet earlier this week, Orange County leaders gathered at a public meeting in Westminster aimed at showing Caltrans that they will have a fight on their hands in Orange County. Now, Orange County Supervisor John Morlock, who was one of nearly 24 elected leaders at the gathering, told the Crown that this was not a collaborative effort, but instead pure thug tactics from Sacramento.
This is being done to us. It's not being done with us. We need to take a hard look at what's happening and we need to give a little pushback.
Now, Seal Beach Mayor Pro Tem Ellery Deaton said that the idea of toll lanes in California, where residents are already taxed for highways, is ridiculous. And in Orange County, where residents tax themselves through Measure M initiatives, it's even more infuriating because the ballot initiative never made any mention of installing toll lanes.
We gave them the money, and now they say, oh, forgot to tell you, now we're going to switch it to toll lanes. So you're going to pay for that whole freeway, and then you're going to pay if you want to ride on it. That's not right. They lied to me, and I'm mad.
Now, if you really want to get a sense of how much anger the proposal is generating, just talk to local businesses like car dealerships. These people are incredibly frightened about the possibility that their customers will simply zoom past their establishments because of a toll road that does not allow for exits.
And I can tell you I have not heard a single business in Seal Beach interested in toll lanes. They don't make business sense. They don't make sense, period. I'm also angry.
Now, we'll keep you updated on what happens next week.
All right, we have another story on this coming up from Pat Haslam as well. Meanwhile, a developer's proposal to finish building the Great Park in Irvine is running into opposition from City Council's Democratic minority members. Norberto, what's going on there?
Irvine's Democratic minority, made up of council members Larry Agron and Beth Crom, are worried that their Great Park is soon going to become the Great Sports Fields under a new proposal from developer 5 Points Communities to finish building what council members hope would become a great metropolitan park. Now, when they were the majority over the past decade, Agron and Crom led the development of a $50 million master plan for the park, one that ultimately ran out of money after going through more than about $200 million in developer fees that had been set aside for the park. Now, they were severely criticized for spending that money on a host of land use consultants and public relations officials, with the famous PR contract to Ford Mulrick at $100,000 a month. Now, the council's original plan was to fund construction of the park by using redevelopment money from nearby neighborhoods. But when Governor Jerry Brown cut that program, it left the Great Park idle. Now, in comes developer Emil Haddad and his 5 Point Communities, who has proposed to spend about $200 million to build out about 700 acres of the overall 1,500-acre park. But he's also seeking permission to add thousands more homes and concentrate his efforts mainly on sports fields. Now, Republicans on the Irvine City Council, Christina Shea and Jeff Lalloway, seem to be supportive of the plan, with Shea saying that the new approach isn't that different from the master plan developed for the park. Now, Crom and Agron call that new change a commercialization of the park and say that Irvine's well-planned infrastructure and streets could be hurt by a large influx of people seeking to use those sports fields.
Good, you'll keep us informed on that. Now, the Orange County Fire Authority is in more hot water this week. Voice of OC broke the story that Laura Blau, a beleaguered OCFA assistant fire chief who oversaw a troubled safety inspection program, has been fired. Now, Norberto, what's the latest on this?
Now, Blah, who was the county's fire marshal, had been under fire all year long after an internal audit found that her department had charged area businesses more than $1.7 million in recent years for safety inspections that just never happened. DA probe into the matter is still ongoing. Now, while Blau, who is a sister-in-law to a retired Deputy Chief Ron Blau, was also initially placed on leave, she was quickly brought back even while the DA probe was continuing. Now, as the probe deepened and disclosures kept coming out, she was placed back on leave earlier this month. Then this week, altogether fired. Her last day is November 2nd. Now, Blau told the Fire Authority board members last week during a farewell speech that she hoped her leaving would resolve the difficulties and allow the organization to regain the public trust. OCFA Fire Chief Keith Richter, who himself had to apologize earlier this month to county supervisors for another controversy involving allegations against top officials that they were bid rigging ambulance contracts, he credited Blau for 27 years of service, but also acknowledged that it was time for replacement.
For more on these stories and other political news throughout Orange County, go to voiceofoc.org.
All right, thanks a lot, Norberto.